Hello, today I would like to talk about Donar, or in Old Saxon we say Þunner, and in Old Norse it was Thor, and in Low Saxon we say Dünner. So his name, if you take it apart into two parts, the first part is Thu, which I've talked about in the myth, when I'm talking about Ithuna and her name and that type of thing. Thu means the nectar of the mind, of the moon, because when the moon is out at night, then the Thu comes out of the ground and is like the moist drops, what we call dew today. Thu became dew, and it also means dew as in you, which we say, like in Old Saxon and Old English, they would say Thu, and it meant dew as in German we say Tau, in Low Saxon we say Dau, and these meant dew, like the dew drops from the night when the moon is out. And then it also means you, because it is life energy, and you are made up of life energy. So in German today we say du, du, which means you. And then in Old Saxon and Old English we would say Thu, and that meant you, but it also meant the nectar of the mind and the moon, because we are man, we are the mind. The moon is called man. We are mankind. So, and then the second part of his name is Nar, and this, if you look into it, it always means the lord of something. So he is the lord of the nectar of the mind. And if you look at the mythology, like for example Alvisma, he's dealing with a dwarf. A dwarf is symbol of your emotions, and emotions are creative energies within us, psychological aspects. And it is an emotion that is clearly out of alignment in this myth. It doesn't even recognize it as talking to Þunner, and in the myth, the Alvismar. And as Þunner is the lord of the mind, of the nectar of the moon of the mind, it is his job to keep your mind in alignment, your emotions in alignment, as we say today, keep your emotions under control. And that is what Þunner does. But he does more than this. That is one example. The other example is in the mythology, in Germany, for example, we always say that Þunner comes from the west in the winter time and fights the cold winds in the east, because we get our cold from the east in general speaking, and in general speaking our warm weather comes from the west in Germany, and it has always been that way. So then you take Thor and Loki in Jotunheim. Why are they going to Jotunheim? Because the giants in the east are blowing cold blasts of wind, and that is why they are going there, to put them in order, to figure out what's going on, right? And then when they get there, they meet the giant that is like the giant of the Loki giant, right? And the Loki giant is tricking them, and Thor wrestles Ellie, the nurse, who is the giant's nurse, and it turns out she is old age in time. And then Jormungandr is always in the myths fighting against Jormungandr, which is constriction, and that is representation of the earth's gravity. It is constriction of the earth. And Þunar means thunder, and the word thunder comes from the god's name, Þunner. And it is that sound of the cracking of electromagnetic force field. That energy, the life energy atoms, they're cracking together, right? Making that sound of thunder, Þunar. And he holds atoms together. The electromagnetic field force holds life energy. Atoms are life energy, and he holds it together. It is the reason we have solids, liquids, and gas in our manifested reality, is because of Þunner always fighting the Jormungandr. And he can never beat the Jormungandr, and the Jormungandr can never beat Þunner, but they always are in fight with each other in conflict because of the fact that gravity would pull us all to the center of the earth, and our manifested reality would be no more if it was not for the electromagnetic field and force, which is Þunner. It is expansive energy fighting constriction energy, which is gravity, the Jordmangandr. And because of this, neither one can ever win. If Jordmangandr wins, every atom, all life force energy, all manifested reality would be zapped and sucked to the center, and it would be no more. And if Þunner ever won, then there would be no constriction against his expansive energy of aether or atom, and then everything would just be expanded and it would no longer exist, and be blown apart of expansion kind of thing, expansive energy. And also in the mythology, his son's name is Magni, and Magni means power, and in the one myth, his son is given as a reward for his help Golfaxi, which means golden maned, and gold always represents, like atom or wood element, life energy. So his son has the horse named Life Energy, which was said to be almost equal to Sleipnir in speed and endurance. And Sleipnir is how Woden travels to, on Yggdrasil, it means Woden's horse. Sleipnir and Yggdrasil are one, and it is how Woden travels to the 9 worlds and realms, which is your self-awareness, your shamanic self-awareness is Woden. So when you are in a shamanic state, you are becoming Woden, and you can communicate with all the gods and ritual and travel to the 9 realms on Sleipnir. And, like I say, and then his wife, her hair is gold, Sif, the golden hair, again, representation, life force energy, right? So that is a little bit about Þunner, or Thor, depending on the name you want to call him. And he's an important god. He's the boundary maker, right? Because he is the electromagnetic force. He puts in, the reason why Christians baptize their children. That was not something that was done in the Middle East. In the original Christians, they didn't do that. They didn't do that until they came to Northern Europe, and they adopted the tradition of baptism because the Germanic tribes had always done that. They sprinkle a bit of water. Not a lot, but just sprinkle a bit of water from your fingers, whatever, dip your fingers in some water, you sprinkle it over the baby's head, and then you take the Thor's hammer. How they always found these Thor's hammer, amulets and that, these small ones like we wear today on necklaces and stuff. They kept finding those, and that was our tradition in pre-Christian times. The way the Catholics used the cross, we did the same thing with the hammer. That is the whole reason why the Catholics started all that. They just took a Germanic pagan tradition that they could not get rid of and changed it into a Christian one. But it was for a different purpose. The Catholics did it to get rid of the pagan soul and make it a Semitic soul, because it is a Semitic religion. And the original tradition was done with Thor's hammer to put in boundary stakes of the name of the child when you would baptize it. That was what you were doing with Thor's hammer, symbolizing you were putting in the boundary stakes of the child's name to his soul for this new life of it. And then at weddings, brides would often get married at Yuletide, but regardless of when they got married, they wear red dresses usually or so. And that is because blood is another symbol of Thor, the life force energy. And he loves the color red because blood is the life energy. Like when we would sacrifice goats or our food, wild boar, whatever it was, before we would eat it, we would sacrifice it and offer it to the gods. And the blood was symbol of life energy, giving this soul, this life energy to the gods, so they could take it and use that energy to do an exchange of energy with you for your ritual and empower whatever the reason of your ritual was. The exchange of energy. So, but Thor was also, because the boundary maker at weddings, he was the god you would call for weddings. You would also call Freyr, but for fertility purposes, Freyr, and Thor for the boundary purposes. So Freyr, you would offer him pork, and you'd swear your oaths on pork for Freyr at a wedding, and then you would rip the pork in half and you would eat your oaths at the wedding. And Thor's hammer would be used to put the boundary stakes. Now the two souls of the husband and the wife are now bound together. And Þunner was used for that. And also when they had divorces, because yes, they did have divorces, separations, whatever you want to call it, Þunner would also be used for that, to pull out the boundary stakes. So that is a little bit about Þunner. Tus.